Testing. Such a such an excited response. How's everybody doing right now? There we go. Welcome to Tiny Desk Talks. My name is Toki Wright. I am your host for the evening. I'm actually originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Work with the current 89.3 and sister station to NPR with American Public Media. And I came out here about 7 weeks ago to start working at Berklee. So it just so happens I got to come hang out with cool people from NPR once again. I was one of the judges for Tiny Desk this year, and we had some great entries, and we're about to introduce you to someone that's very important, but we want to let you know, if you look on your seat, there is a card inside of a booklet. You're able to write down a question if there's something that you want our fantastic guests here to know, to answer, and we'll make sure that we try to get your question answered. All right, we want to thank WBUR and WGBH for all of the support in their partnership, as well as Lagunitas for getting you inebriated. So give it up for everyone that supported Tiny Desk Talks today. Now, there have been some really great past performers on Tiny Desk. A few people that have gone on to become really popular. People like Tank and the Bangers, and Tank
and the Bangers.
Naya Izumi, who is a great artist that I got to be a part of judging this last year. And there's been a whole ton of other people that have performed on Tiny Desk Talks, like Anderson .Paak, who are some of the people that you like? T-Pain? The T-Pain one was great, right? No auto-tune. Like, how do you auto-tune an acoustic set? Can you do that?
No. It's not allowed. Bob Boilen does not allow auto-tune.
But all these great people really couldn't do what they do without the person that's sitting next to me. This is Josh Rogosin. Excuse me. I had to pronounce properly, and I was trying to use my my diction here. Josh Rogosin, who is the person that engineers all of the performances, makes sure that everything's mic'd up, make sure that everything's mixed properly live. And whenever you hear or see a Tiny Desk Talk, it sounds so good because this person makes it happen. So give it up for Josh.
Thanks, Toki.
Well, it's true. So, it wasn't a stretch. So let's go back into your history a little bit and find out about you. How did you even get involved in sound?
I'm a musician, like a lot of folks probably in this room, where I would pick up a guitar and pick some songs and actually write some acoustic numbers. And for a birthday present, my parents got me some studio time in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, just up the street here from Boston. So Boston was always the big city for me growing up. And just being in the studio, recording a demo of 3 songs, I just fell in love with the process. I got a 4-track Tascam 424, 4-channel analog cassette-based multi-track recorder, and
Who knows what that means?
old school.
10 points. 10 points.
Tascam back in the day, they really made it possible to record yourself in your bedroom and do overdubs, and I learned about the process of recording music, and I always loved making music, but I never really wanted to pursue it professionally because I've always been an amateur when it comes to creating my own music in terms of that. I love to do it for the love of doing it. And for me, I never really wanted to make it any pressure for it to support a career for myself personally.
But you come from a musical family as well, right?
I do.
So who's in your family?
So I grew up in Los Angeles, California. My dad was the conductor for Johnny Mathis for years. He wrote musical theater. He'd be at the piano constantly. I would hear music all the time, and it was just wonderful growing up hearing music. And then when they moved from California to New Hampshire, they started a musical theater company, or a little regional theater, I should say, called Seacoast Repertory Theater up in Portsmouth. Anybody? Yeah, it's a sweet little spot. And they started it in, I think it was like 1987 or something. I'm definitely dating myself. But I performing in their theater and doing rock and roll musicals. Like I played Tommy in The Who's Tommy, and I played Riff Raff in Rocky Horror Show 3 summers in a row, and I was Claude in Hair, and Anyway, I loved music. I loved singing. And out of that grew a love of basically capturing it.
So starting to capture music, how did this lead you? How did you stumble upon NPR?
I worked at the Shakespeare Theater. That was sort of my first gig out of college down in D.C. And I was writing the soundboard, lots of like musical sound cues and sound effects, and maybe putting a reverb effect on one of the ghosts in one of the Shakespearean shows. And I used to walk by NPR every day, and that gave me the idea, I should probably walk in there and see if they've got a gig for an audio engineer. I studied communications in college at Ithaca College, the Park School of Communications, and I thought it would be great to apply some of what I learned in school to broadcasting and learn about that whole world. So my love of theater kind of translated effortlessly and magically as it stumbled upon into NPR, which was just a magical thing.
And you started going overseas doing some pretty interesting work, right?
Yeah, I worked with our events producer here, Jessica Goldstein, who went field recording. This is me as a kid, right out of college, pretty much, a couple years out of school. Top left, I'm actually recording in surround sound. There's 4 omnidirectional microphones on 4 tent poles. And my friend Flan Williams, who is an audio engineer and mentor at NPR, helped me out with this rig, and we went to West Africa and recorded voodoo festivals in surround sound. So maybe we can like have a little taste.
Yeah. Are we able to get a taste of that? Let's see if we can hear it.
I'm not sure I could count that. Can you guys?
What time is it? What time signature? Somebody figured it out already. Are you a Berklee student? No, you're just good. Okay, so you talked about omnidirectional. You described all of this way of miking.
Yeah, so there's
sound.
different microphone recording techniques, and so in the top left, we've got that. What you just heard was surround sound of the 4 omnidirectional microphones pointed in every direction, so I can capture all the sound. This is for, an NPR news story. This was a 3-part series that aired on Morning Edition that maybe 15 million people heard, which was incredible to record music and have that be on the news magazines. It was just an amazing opportunity. Which Radio Expeditions, which is a series that no longer exists, it was a co-production with National Geographic, something that just an incredible way to grow up at NPR and learn my craft. Amazing. And what I want to talk about is how all of these recording techniques lead to how I record Tiny Desk concerts to this day. It's really the same principles. So on the top left, you've got the surround sound rig. In the bottom right, this is a story from Athens, Greece, or Nemea, actually, where the first Olympics were held, supposedly. And this was leading up to the 2004. Oh, yeah, forgot to mention, please silence your cell phones.
Yes.
Yeah, so this was back in 2004, or right before the Summer Olympics in Athens. So in the blimp there on the left, there's something called an MS stereo pair. It's a directional and a bidirectional mic, which, as a matter of fact, we have right here on stage. The Tiny Desk mic, huzzah, is actually a directional mic this way and a bidirectional mic. So there's actually 2 capsules in one mic. And that's actually pretty much what's exactly inside this Zeppelin, is the directional and the bidirectional. And then you decode it in post-production, and you can control the stereo width. But I'm getting into the weeds a little bit there. And then the last rig I wanted to show you, I'm actually wearing on my head. I've got a hanger that's around my headphones here, and these are omnidirectional mics. And this is it's called binaural because it mimics how you actually hear. Your microphones are pointed out, they're omnidirectional, and they're picking up sound in a very sort of like realistic way, how we actually hear. I don't know if I'm... so if we went to the next slide, You can actually see a binaural mic at the tiny desk, which you actually don't get to see on camera. It's this thing, and Neumann makes it. It's called the KU100 or Fritz. And there's two omnidirectional microphones in ears that are made of silicon to mimic what your actual cartilage feels like. And I use that actually to pick up our audience. So it's as if Fritz is an audience member. And right below Fritz is the wide angle camera shot. So the audience mics are at the perspective of the wide shot.
Interesting. So, we tend to hear sound in what way when we're listening to a song on the radio or a recording or watching the television? Are we hearing a recording that's recorded in the same similar fashion?
I guess it really depends, obviously. But if you're hearing like a recorded record, folks spend months of their lives in a recording studio, overdubbing, singing the same thing 20 times, and just picking one line from each take. So you're really hearing something that's completely incredible, but produced and manufactured and not real, alinear. Okay. So I think, but we all hear, what's amazing about, that stereo mic that's ahead that mimics how we actually hear sound. It's just incredible that, we hear everything in stereo. That's the best possible microphone ever are your ears. So when a band shows up at the tiny desk and they're like, oh, we need in-ear monitors, we need monitors on the floor, how are we going to hear each other? And I'm like, well, you're sitting right next to each other. And it's amazing. Once you strip away that technology and everyone turns down their volumes to make sure that the vocals are on top, it just clicks. And people remember about, being human. And before technology even existed, people sat around a campfire and played music with each other. And guess what? It worked great. Music has probably been popular before recording technology came about. I think. I don't know. I wasn't here.
I think you're right. So going from these really big spaces, going from outdoors, recording in Africa, recording in Europe, what's it like recording in a really small, tight, confined space? And where is this? Where is?
Oh, right. So the tiny desk is actually Bob Boylan's desk in Washington, D.C. at NPR's headquarters.
So it's his actual desk.
It's his actual desk. Bob sits there, and he's constantly in my way. And I'm like, Bob, are you sure you want to keep this desk? It's really useful to set up when you're not here. No, I'm just kidding. We love Bob. He's incredible. The whole series came about because he was directing a news magazine, All Things Considered, and I was the audio engineer mixing the news, basically live to the air back in the day. And people would write Bob and say, hey, what is that music you used between that really happy story and that really sad story? I have to know. And Bob started All Songs Considered, which led to the creation of NPR Music, and then, of course, to the Tiny Desk. Basically, out of necessity, people wanted to know what these songs were. So he created the first, what did he call it? Show for the internet. It was before podcasting. This was like 2001. So he created a radio show for the internet. He was the very first one to do it at NPR.
Wow. So, groundbreaking, ahead of his time.
And then Tiny Desk is another groundbreaking moment out of necessity. Him and Stephen Thompson, who hosts Pop Culture Happy Hour, they were hanging out South by Southwest. We go every year. They went to this bar in 2007. And there was a football game on, and everyone was screaming, and there's this beautiful music by Laura Gibson, who is so quiet. And after the show, Stephen and Bob went up to her and said, hey, Stephen mentioned as a joke, you know what, when you come to Washington, you should just come and play at Bob's desk. And she's like, all right. And she called their bluff and showed up in D.C. and said, I remember that time when you said I could record at your desk. Well, I'm here. And that's how the Tiny Desk concert series got started. You watch the first one. Bob's like, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but here's Laura Gibson at my desk because we couldn't hear it. South by Southwest, take it away. 800 concerts later, millions of views. It's just out of necessity. It came out of necessity.
But there's already a running theme. It's taking chances and going into spaces that you may not typically go into to try something new. And
that's right. That's when I walked into NPR off the street walk into the Shakespeare Theater to do my gig. I never knew what to do. I just kind of stumbled in there.
So let's talk about this space versus some other maybe more unconventional spaces that you've recorded for Tiny Desk. So you've had a number of people, Anderson .Paak, Tower of Power. Are we going to hear a clip?
We are. I think right before we go to that moment where we can get some examples and talk about specifics, I just wanted to mention that. So out of the field recording that you saw in the beginning, it's why we use these portable mics and these portable recorders. So if we hit the next slide, Pilar Fitzgerald, who's like amazing producer in the back. Thank you.
Make some noise for Pilar.
Woo! So here we are at the White House with Common and Bilal and Robert Glasper and Kareem Riggins, and there's some other very famous, incredible musicians whose names I've forgotten. We were invited to the library at the Obama White House, and I needed to bring my rig. And what's beautiful about the Tiny Desk setup is it's literally field recorders that are designed for really film capture. So it's like something that super pro, remote TV, remote ENG. That's what we're using. It's not designed to record music. It's not a Pro Tools rig. The beauty of it is it's actually right here. There's one right here. We basically it records to compact flash and internal hard drive simultaneously, so there's the built-in backup. There's 8 microphone preamps, an extremely small package. It runs on batteries, and the preamps are incredible. It sounds so quiet. It's extremely expensive, but it enables me to replicate what we do at the Tiny Desk and what are called these field recordings. So obviously on the left here, we're in the White House, in the library, recording this incredible. I think that's the first Tiny Desk that wasn't recorded at Bob's desk. Yep. And then we did this really fun video with the Blue Man Group when they came to NPR, which is something that I produced because I came and saw them when I was a little kid, and me and my dad, by the end of the show, were screaming on our chairs, standing on our chairs while toilet paper's flying everywhere. So it was my dream to bring Blue Man Group to the Tiny Desk for their 25th anniversary, and I'm like, Bob, can we do this, please? And he's like, if you make it special. So our way of making it special was to create this video where this is in our quartermaster's office in the bowels of NPR, which no one ever sees, where all of the equipment is living on shelves collecting dust. And the Blue Man director was like, yeah, we should just pack the engineer as well. We'll just throw you in a road case and off we go.
So the most important question here is, does Blue Man Group actually talk?
Oh yeah. Well,
are you giving away secrets right now?
No, I mean, I guess they don't talk on
Non-disclosure.
camera, but yeah, we had to, yeah. They're great.
Okay.
They actually all had to have in-ear monitors underneath their skull caps so they couldn't hear otherwise. So their engineer came and gave them a mix for their in-ears. That was probably the only time there's one other time Amy Mann insisted on in-ears, but we hid them under her hair. You can't really see it. But yeah, so they actually had a mix engineer for their in-ear monitors, and then I grabbed everything as well. We just split the signal out, and that was one where we really prepared a lot. And then there's some where the band just rolls in off the tour bus bleary-eyed. It's noon. They're not used to being awake at that hour. They just played a show the night before at the 9:30 Club. They're up till 4 in the morning. And they roll in, and they're like, what is this? And then we make the magic, and it's they show up at noon. We tape at 12:30. They're gone at 1. I mean, it's insane.
One of the words that comes to mind is intimacy. I feel like it's very intimate. The proximity in which people play from each other, as well as being in a tight and enclosed space, not having a whole lot of equipment that kind of gets in the way of the talent. So it really feels like stripped down and intimate and really about the music.
It is. It's hard. Getting isolation and separation. Part of the reason we use the shotgun mics is they're very directional. I also love them because you can get them out of the shot a bit, so you can remove the tech a little bit from the performance. When you see that tight shot of the camera on a performer, you don't see any microphone in their face like this. It's like this instead. And there's something that happens. They forget that they're performing, or they're just connecting with an audience. That's another thing that makes Tiny Desk super special. I mean, I love these sessions, Audio Tree Live and KEXP and WGBH, of course, does incredible work too. But the thing that makes Tiny Desk unique is that you get the intimacy and the quietness of a studio, but you still have the live audience, which is an extremely key part of this. Extremely. That interaction, that intensity that the performers feel with that intimacy of like, wow, it's really quiet and lovely in here, and everyone's being very respectful and listening very closely, and you can really hear everything perfectly with no PA, with no monitors. And we just like, it's all about getting the balance right, dialing in those amps at the correct volume, making sure the vocals are on top. Pleading with drummers to use the hot rods or to play quietly, that's the hardest part, you know, like I have a very difficult time getting Anderson .Paak. Like, how the heck am I going to get his vocal above the kit without a mic like this? And that's my challenge.
Can we maybe see some things being played?
Good idea. So the first one is this guy. I mean, don't you want to just clap at the screen?
Yeah, it's pretty good. So Yo-Yo Ma, you have Yo-Yo Ma, who world-renowned, accomplished player. How do you treat this situation differently than some of the other performances?
Yeah, he shows up with his 1712 Stradivarius. That's priceless, and he's like the master. He's like the guy who plays that instrument, right, in the world, perhaps.
Yeah.
One of them, but very well. And then I basically just get on my knees and stick my ear where the microphone should go. Isn't that what you guys do?
And fear for your life that you don't break anything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, he was great. He was like, "Here, you want to hold it?" But jokingly.
Can we maybe? Okay, so this is a Pro Tools session?
Oh yeah, this is the boring part.
Okay.
This is what it looks like in Pro Tools.
So what's Pro Tools for people that don't dabble?
Pro Tools is a DAW, or a digital audio workstation, and it enables you to record a bunch of stuff. So I'm not recording directly to the computer. This is an important distinction. I record to these dedicated field recording boxes. I just feel better that I'm never going to get a DAE error. Anyone? So it's nice when you don't have to. The computer, I don't know. The computer, jury's still out.
So what are we seeing on each of these lines here? Because it seems like some of these lines are these waves are a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
than
so anything that's gray is muted. I go through and I highlight audio that I don't want to hear, and I don't want to just delete it, so I mute it. The top line is ambi, so that's Fritz, the head that's hanging out in the air. And you're seeing actually what we just heard. This is Yo-Yo playing. This is the MS stereo mic, which I'm just using a little bit for some sauce. And then I've got a mono mic here, the MKH40, that is where I basically put my head where the mic should go. And in order for a mono source, like a guitar or a single mic like this, to sound natural, we hear in stereo. A microphone is a mono signal. So to me, it sounds very not natural. So this section over here called the plugins, and there's one in particular here, which is called Ozone Stereoizer, I think. And what it does is it enables you to manipulate specific frequencies and make them in stereo, and it also allows you to make it how wide or how narrow you want. So I find the frequency that I want to kind of turn into stereo and put on the effect, and it makes it sound real. Yeah. Isotope Ozone Stereoizer, I think it's free.
Plugins.
The tools are interesting. It's like, yeah, there's probably 10 plugins that do that. But I think the key is just listening.
There's another question, right?
How much of the cello came from the port into the body, and how much of it came from the outside of the body?
The port meaning the F hole. I don't know. Like the ratio of direct cello to or the body. I don't know. Oh, meaning like the mics.
No, the sound of the cello. Where is the ear listening? The outside of the wood or the whole of the
Just I'm next to it, and I'm like, oh, this is a little too far. Oh, this is a little too close. Oh, but for Tiny Desk, I want it to sound larger than life. That's not what it sounds like in the room. Yeah.
Well, can we maybe hear some other examples?
Yeah, so that's like as easy as it gets, right?
Yeah.
One guy and a cello.
Do you, I'll do me. Chilling at the bottom of the sea, and I say, I'm happy just being a prawn. Oh, I'm happy just being a prawn. Oh, I'm happy just being a prawn. Oh, 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 I'm happy just being a prawn, 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 prawn.
All right. So you had a interesting mix of traditional music, traditional instruments, non-traditional instruments, some electronic, some controllers, effects. How do you get all those things to live together live?
How do you record a bucket of water with someone stirring it like this? I don't know. A lot of that has to do with EQ and watching. I had the video producer give me the video wide shot so I could see what was happening, and then very aggressively riding the levels, which you can't really see. But so like this Vox left, right? These are just like mics on the table, and like here you'll see me boosting. Where is it? Like the bucket of water or whatever, and maybe adding another track to EQ it differently so that I can really get that whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Even the mics back here, I can still manipulate that mic to pick up that water sound that I want by rolling off all the low end, bringing up all the sparkly bits on EQ, and cranking the heck out of it. But when you watch it, it doesn't sound like I did that at all.
And how much of this is done on the spot and how much is done in post-production?
Well, on the spot, you need to know where you need your mics and what you need to capture. So like the gentleman blowing in the glass of water, I'm like, oh, let's just stick a mic in there. I really want the sound of that bubbling, that gurgling. And then, the band came in and wanted to use these little teeny amps. And I'm like, yeah, that'll sound okay. But I really want to take that direct. So I certainly let them use their amps, but then I also stole the direct signal from the Moog. So you got the brow, brow, and this sound system's awesome. Those subs up there, you could really hear that low end brow sound of that Moog. And I would not have been able to get that sound by just miking the amp, which is what the band wanted me to do. Like, we want it lo-fi, we want it lo-fi. I'm like, yep, no problem. And then they heard it, and they're like, holy cow, that's amazing.
So how are you mixing for a laptop? Like, how does that work?
You mean in a laptop or for a laptop speaker?
I mean, ultimately, where do most people hear or watch
You
Tiny
can be
Desk?
honest.
On the laptop or on your
On
phone?
speakers, on headphones?
Speakers. Earbuds. Right, so you're going to hear the left and right. You're going to hear
That's
a lot
actually
of sounds.
an excellent point. I spend a lot of time with these mixes, about a week, I'd say. And after I mix them once, I put them on my phone, and then I'm listening to it on my Apple earbuds on my commute home, because that's what everybody else is listening to on. And I was like, oh, I should probably listen to that on that. So it's very important to hear it in different contexts while you're doing dishes, while you're biking home. I listen to the mix in all these different locations after I mix it the way I want it on these incredible $500 headphones that I'm wearing. that no one else has.
Exactly. I mean, you see that a lot with people that mix hip hop music. They mix it in their beats and
Oh yeah,
and then they play it on their car stereo, and it sounds
doesn't translate.
horrible.
That's right.
Right. So knowing you have a lot of multiple people that are listening to this different ways, how do you find the sweet spot?
I just take mental notes. So I'm listening on my iPhone, just on a table, and like, ooh, I really can't hear the bass at all. Well, that's like always, right? Or laptop speakers, like. But hey, maybe I can use some EQ to accentuate some sort of like excitement frequencies around like 1 to 3K or whatever, where I can hear like the attack, right, of the string, if the bass player's playing with a pick. So maybe at least I can get that attack out. So stuff like that, or I'll just make mental notes like, ooh, I wish that guitar solo was louder. Maybe we can move to the next.
Yeah, guitar solo, maybe.
Speaking of guitar solos.
It's a lot of people. So, whoa, okay. So how do you get sounds to stand out without overpowering everything else that's being played?
I like to say that I like to be in the band for one session. I feel like I'm one of the band members listening to all of the parts. When is the bass player doing a cool little lick? Ooh, I'm going to just like make that poke out a little bit. That was like, wow, cacophony of sound. Oh, crap, Derek Trucks is about to do a guitar solo. That needs to pop out. How do I do that when there's no place to go? EQ, just listening to all the different parts and adjusting them and making decisions that the musicians don't make, and that's trust. I don't know what that is.
I mean, in that we saw the same thing with Superorganism when the lead singer, I'm assuming the lead singer, had that one part where everyone kind of fell back a little bit. So is that you pushing their sound up, or is that them having the knowledge to back up?
No, that's me. No, okay. No. No, I mix aggressively, but yeah. I want it to sound natural, and I think that's the balance.
So I do want to get this last one in because I think there's something powerful about Tower of Power in the way that you mic this one.
Cool.
Say yeah, say yeah, yeah. Say yeah, yeah. Say oh yeah, say yeah, yeah. Say yeah, yeah. Say yeah, yeah. Say oh yeah, say power, say power, say power, say power, say power. Say power. Now somebody, everybody, let's sing. What is hip? What is hip? Tell me. Does anybody out there know?
So did we notice anything different about the way that this was set up? He's on the table. He's standing up. So why did you have to do that?
Luckily, there was no room for him. Without blocking. Well, we already blocked like one of the best drummers in the world, which is a crime. Right. So the idea was, ooh, let's get you up on, here's a spot for you. And the beauty of that for me is that it gave me some separation, which I rarely achieve at the Tiny Desk. There's so much bleed. Like that horn section was so powerful. I only used one clip-on mic. The rest of the audio went to the head for horns, which we didn't hear the horn part, but go back and listen to the horns.
Something else I noticed, I feel like they're, well, he's kissing his biceps, he's having fun, they're sweating, they're having a good time. How much is audience participation important in this space?
It's huge, and that's why I tried to pick that clip, because I'm riding those audience mics up and down, which is really, that band was very loud in the room. Like,
So you're
very
miking
loud.
the audience as well.
Yeah, it's the head that's hanging in the air. So I mean, what I could do, I guess, is set up maybe some shotguns and point them at the audience. But I don't know. I like the challenge of keeping the setup the same and consistent for all of the bands, and just riding those audience mic levels. I mean, to my ear today in this room, I wish the audience mics were mixed louder. But I'm a perfectionist and I'll never be happy. It's never done.
Well, maybe I overheard this. I don't know if it was from you or if it's from someone else. When Nai Izumi was at Tiny Desk in D.C., play quieter. Was that the instruction?
Quite possibly. It's usually, let's turn down your amps. Actually, the drummer had a really challenging time. These drummers are not used to having to play quietly. There's usually, a PA involved. So asking these folks to play quiet, that's really hard. If they're used to playing really hard. I mean, you'll hear Anderson .Paak say it in the middle of his video. He says, "Do you know how hard it is to play that low?" He literally just says it. And he's right. And he nailed it. But, that's hard.
So this is this relationship that you have with the music. How has it changed over the years? Being able to be in the room with Parliament Funkadelic, being able to be in the room with all these great bands, these superstars that are coming to have a very personal moment with you and with another 20, 30 people in the room.
Yeah, it's a delicate thing, right? You want them to trust you. Luckily, the series is gangbusters, and people know it. So folks who come in are just so tickled to be there. They're also not used to playing. It's as if it's like you're invited. You've been on the road, right? I mean, you're a musician. It's like, have you ever had an instance where you and your bandmates go to someone's hotel room to just play some music? That's the level of stress. Or we liked, even though we're like, oh my gosh, this is probably gonna be the most popular video anyone sees of our tiny little band. So it's that coupled with, this is gonna be so easy. We're just hanging out with our friends.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. So what now? No, you know what? I had a really important question for you, because we lost a musician in the last week who had just got done performing on Tiny Desk, Mac Miller, and I have yet to see the performance. I thought the performance was older. I didn't know that he had just recorded it. And so can you talk about what was the energy like in the room, and how does that, you being in the room, knowing what you know now about how he passed, how does it maybe change the perspective that you had of being in that space?
They rolled in so psyched, and just like Thundercat had been there before, so I felt like, he prepped. Man, this is what it's going to be like, man. It's no big deal. It's great. And they were just in such a great mood. They wanted to get straight to the desk. They just started jamming. Everyone was just like happy. And it translates in that video. You got to go back and watch it, Toki. It's amazing. And I just, I remember the piano player, I know the bass isn't loud in the room, but it's basically just go Mac, bass, everything else. And if you listen to it, that's what it sounds like. So there's a lot of low end in that mix. It's really nice, and he's an incredible performer. And all I can say is I am so honored and thankful that we got that before he passed, and that it's on the record as just being an awesome thing that he did, and showing the energy of the band.
And having a happy moment in the middle of all the sadness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So speaking of bands, we've got a special band that's going to come up to the stage. We want to make sure that if you have not yet done so, that you fill out either the survey or the questionnaire, or not the questionnaire. You can leave us a question so that we can talk in a little while, have a little Q&A. So make sure that if you have any questions to ask, that you write that down on a piece of paper and you hand it to all of these beautiful, cool people that are waving their arms right now. Okay? We've got Anjimile who's coming up to the stage real soon, and you're gonna set them up, right?
I am. I think part of what makes all this is not about this boring stuff that I talk about. It's really about capturing music. So let's invite to the stage this incredible local band,
Give it up.
Anjimile.
And it'd only be right if I could ask you a couple questions because why don't you just start playing without knowing anything about you? So who are you?
We are Anjimile.
Nice.
My name is Anjimile.
My name is Anjimile. And my name is Anjimile.
We like that.
This is Justine and Sarah. We're a local ambient folk indie pop band.
Cool. And you participated in Tiny Desk?
We did, yeah. We won the local WBUR, like Massachusetts.
Hey.
Tiny Desk.
So, what can you tell us about the experience? What was it like?
It was great. It was
You're
awesome.
like, why am I messing with you while you're trying to set up your equipment?
It was incredible. I was not expecting it. They emailed me that I won, and I just emailed them back what with like 16 exclamation points. Yeah, so it's been great.
Cool. Well, I'm going to get out of the way if you want to just describe to the people what's
Sure.
happening up here.
Hey guys, gals, everybody. I'm psyched you're here. This is exciting. So back to the whole thing about putting my ears where it sounds good. Why don't you guys just start running through something groovy, and I'll play with your amp volumes while you do.
I was a little cross. I was a little cold. I was a little lost. Dead to me, truth be told. Dead to me, truth be told. Dead to me, truth is in the light. You're a miracle to behold. Truly, in the night, it's a miracle to be held by you. What today can I make inside of my heart for you? Bold and bright, I could fall asleep in your love.
Do you guys sing at some point? Yes. Good. I'm waiting for that part.
Should we do that right now?
Sure. Skip to the harmony.
The verse?
Sing to me, Mother's grace. Give to me, Mother's trust.
The balance is really good, so the background vocals are louder than the main vocals, which is good because they're off mic. So that's good. You guys should sing out. I mean, you all should sing out, but yeah.
I think she looks like us. I think she looks like us.
Okay, can I hear the guitar without you playing for a sec? So there is a bit of buzz. Can you play with your pickups and see if we can get rid of some of it, and I'll get the rest out in software. Let's just hear without playing, just the buzz. Just the buzz, please. Yep. So it's a little buzzier there. Maybe a little less there. Can you go all the way the other way again? Yeah, let's do all the way to the right. Yeah. And then can I hear the OP1? Cool. Do you have what you need, Dave? Dave's at front of house, by the way. I'm going to listen on these headphones. Oh, have you tuned your guitar?
I have.
Oh, good. Musically delicious. Okay, I'm going to just give it a quick listen on headphones, and then you guys are just going to go. Oh, so after we get a little taste, I want Toki to introduce the band. Everyone's going to applaud because they're so excited. And then you're going to wait to play until they're done applauding so I can have a clean start.
Got it.
So can you give me a little taste of the harmony again?
Sing to me, Mother's grace. Give to me, Mother's trust. I've never seen her face, but I think she looks like us.
Cool.
All
Toki,
right.
we take it away.
1, 2, 1, 2. People of the beautiful city of Boston, how are you feeling this evening? Now I want you to keep that round of applause going and make some noise for Anjimile.
I was a little cross. I was a little cold. I was a little lost. Dead to me, truth be told. Dead to me, truth be told. Dead to me, truth is in the light. You're a miracle to behold, truly in the night. It's a miracle to be held by you. What today can I make inside of my heart for you? Bold and bright, I could fall asleep in your love. Sing to me, Mother's grace. Give to me, Mother's trust. I've never seen her face, but I think she looks like us. I think she looks like us. I think I'm ashamed of the awful things I have done to you. What today can I make inside of my heart for you? In the sweet, distant, deepest part of my soul, you are bold and bright. I could fall asleep in your love. It's happening, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening. not so gone as I thought. Oh God, I am loved. I am learning how to receive loving. Are you real? Are you something out of a dream? From me, bold and bright, I could fall asleep in your love. In the light, you're a miracle to behold. Truly, in the night, it's a miracle to be held by you. What today can I make inside of my heart for you? Bold and bright, I could fall asleep in your love.
That last song was called 1978. You can find it on the internet, Bandcamp and YouTube and all that. This next song is called Maker. Absence becomes me. A reticent specter. Oh, why don't you do as you're told? Happiness isn't your goal. I'm not just a boy, I'm a man. I'm not just a man, I'm a god. I'm not just a god, I'm a maker. Country for crazy. But thank you for asking. My markings and makings belong in the trash bin. Happiness isn't your goal. I'm not just a boy, I'm a man. I'm not just a man, I'm a god. I'm not just a god, I'm a maker. Mind your maker. just a god, I'm a maker. Mind your maker.
Thank you so much. This is our last tune. On November 14th, we're playing at the Fraser Studio, put on by WGBH. Sam Trump is headlining, and we're going to open. We're going to sing some songs. Thank you for listening.
Getting right in your eyes. Spitting right in your eyes. Does my body divide? Was my body denied? Ooh, I can't see what's in your eyes. No, I can't be what's in your eyes. Tell me, what do you have to say? Have you always been this way? I can't run and I can't hide. Was my body denied? I don't know. I don't know. Ooh, I can see what's in your
Got you. One more time, give it up for Anjimile. They can be found on the internet. And speaking of the internet, some members of the Tiny Desk Contest online family are in the house, and we want to give a special shout out to Amara, who has a question. Can you give us a timeline or a list of items we should learn about or purchase in order to create our own studio? They want to think futuristically and allow themselves the space to grow.
I got a lot of use out of that 4-track, that analog tape 4-track recorder. They've got versions of that are much nicer now. So I would recommend looking into any number of them, but they're basically these multi-track recorders in a box. I don't know, I like recording to the box. You get this relationship with this box. It's not a computer where you're doing your email and all your other stuff. I kind of like just recording into a box. So I'd recommend doing that, getting a couple of mics that don't have to be too expensive. You can use that same mic, since you can overdub yourself, you can use the same mic for a million different instruments.
Is less equipment, less is more? Do you feel that?
Yeah, you got to start somewhere and simply, and just use your ears and record it well instead of adding too much. Start simply and move on from there.
Dick wants to know, do you ever do a retake?
Yes. Usually it's not because of me, but it's happened. I was like, oops, didn't arm that track. Should I stop them? And sometimes I don't, and I can figure that out in post. But most of the time, as Bob Boylan always says, we don't want any artists leaving unhappy. So if you didn't feel like you nailed it, or if someone flubbed something, or a lyric goes up on a lyric, sometimes we keep them in the cut. There's one that's coming up, I think, where we left a flub in. Oh, it just published today. I think the Hobo Johnson just published today, and Peach Scone, that song that went viral with 10 million views because of his contest submission this year. They flubbed the beginning, and he's like, "What do you do when you mess up on Tiny Desk?" And Bob says, "Just start again, and we're just going to keep in the embarrassing parts." And we did, but sometimes we cut it out.
I think the mess ups are sometimes the best parts of the song.
Yeah, I agree.
There's like the Jackson 5, "Look Over Your Shoulders, Honey," which you can't really do, but it sounds natural, and it's something that people can point out 20 years from now, right?
That's true.
How long is sound check? Jack wants to know.
Usually, no more than 30 minutes. Band usually rolls in at noon. We're all set up and plugged in by 12:30. We're taping at 1. So yeah, usually it's real quick. We kind of get a line check. I get a minute of each song. If the videographers want it, they'll ask for a full run through. If the band wants it, they'll do a full run through before we invite our colleagues. Basically, there's a page that goes out over the paging system in the building. There's an email that goes out. It's like, all right, come on up if you can. And half the time, all things considered, is getting ready for their show, and they can't make it. So we get random audience sizes from 10 people to 30 to, sometimes over maybe up to 100 for really popular artists.
What's the most you stuff somebody into that office?
The most audience members?
Yeah,
Blue Man was a really big one because everyone brought their kids from home, and it was like a really... Also, the Blue Men were running around the entire office building the day before to shoot the beginning with us. So everyone was like, okay, this is happening. So I think that was like the best ad campaign we could have done, was just having them run around the office the day before.
David wants to know, knowing that you received amazing and famous artists, how do you cope with each artist's demands in a constrained setting such as Tiny Desk?
It can be a challenge. Folks are expecting certain things. They walk in, they don't have their in-ear monitors, they don't have their wedges, they don't
green
understand
M&Ms.
how it can be possible.
All green.
I can't remember specific artists who have a heart, but by the end, I can't remember a time where anyone wasn't in the best mood. And I don't know what that is. It's magic. It's magic.
People feel at home. Do you feel?
Yeah, I think by the end, I think once the audience comes up and they see what it's about, and how it's just about people playing music in a room for other people to appreciate it without all of no one paid to get in, It's just sort of, it just strips it all down to the art, the music, the sharing of talent.
David had an extra question. Recording Sylvanesso's PAs.
I didn't record that. My predecessor, Kevin Waite, shout out to Kevin Waite, he really came up with a whole process of how we record these things, really just using the MS Stereo mic. When I came on, I basically added a lot of like, ooh, I want to record every channel and basically supplement that stereo recording so that I can be anal and control everything.
Anonymous says, do you have any tips for recording live sets, especially outdoors? Mics, equipment, on a limited budget. That monkey wrench a little bit.
That's a big question. Just start with good music is number one. Tune your instruments, like really basic stuff that people don't necessarily think about when there's so much going on. I like outdoor sets because there's no slap. I love this room, by the way. It's padded. It's dead. It's great, and the PA sounds awesome. If you record in a big cavernous space that's really echoey, it can be a total disaster. So actually outside is kind of great because there's no reflections to deal with except for the fake ones you throw on the console.
Question from me. Do you feel like this is where you belong, doing this work?
I do. I love music. I'm a musician myself, and I never really had the right personality or aptitude to become an artist. I didn't want to. As I said before, I'm an amateur in the true sense of the word in terms of my music. I write some good songs, don't we all, right? But for me, I just didn't feel like I wanted to put that much pressure on something I loved so much to feed my face. Anything
Josh
else?
Rogosin, give it up.
Thanks, y'all. Thank you for coming.
Maybe before we go, do you have any tips or suggestions for anyone that is questioning their choice in life, their artistic choice, especially their creative choice?
No, I mean, I think if you have the right drive and that's what you have to do, then yes, you have to do it. I mean, it's incredible. And sharing this human experience through music and through art there's no better way to spend life, period. End of story.
Give it up.